Her boss asked her to dinner while staring me down. She said yes. I didn't argue. I just walked out and started erasing myself from existence. 11 months of planning paid off when she woke up to find everything gone. My name is Cole Branson. I'm 47 years old, and I'm a patent attorney specializing in intellectual property law. I've spent 2 decades protecting other people's innovations, drafting agreements so airtight they could survive any challenge. Ironic, isn't it? I could safeguard a stranger's invention, but couldn't see my own marriage collapsing until it was already gone. The night it all fell apart started like any other award ceremony. Nicole's company was celebrating another record quarter. She'd been their director of marketing for 6 years, climbing fast, always hungry for the next promotion. I was proud of her. Really, I was. Even when it meant eating dinner alone 3 nights a week. Even when our conversations became transaction reports about bills and schedules. The venue was one of those expensive hotel ballrooms downtown. Crystal chandeliers, open bar, people in suits that cost more than most folks' monthly rent. I stood near the bar nursing a whiskey, watching Nicole work the room. She was good at it, always had been. That confidence, that easy laugh. It's what drew me to her 23 years ago. Vincent Crawford appeared beside her. CEO, 50 years old, silver hair, expensive watch. The kind of man who believed the world owed him whatever he wanted. I met him twice before. Both times, something about the way he looked at my wife made my jaw tighten. They talked for a few minutes. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw him lean in close, saw her tilt her head in that way that meant she was charmed. Then he turned, looked directly at me. Not at her, at me. His eyes locked on mine across 20 feet of crowded room. Dinner tomorrow, he said, loud enough that I heard every word. Just the 2 of us. We can discuss your promotion. I watched Nicole's face, saw the flicker of surprise, then something else. Calculation, maybe, ambition. She glanced at me for half a second, then back at Vincent. Sure, she said. She actually smiled when she said it. That sounds great. He looked straight at me when he asked her. She said yes without even hesitating. I didn't argue, didn't raise my voice, didn't make a scene. I just set my glass down on the nearest table, turned, and walked out of that ballroom. My footsteps echoed in the marble lobby. Nobody followed me. I sat in my car in the parking garage for 10 minutes, hands on the steering wheel, engine off. The rational part of my brain, the lawyer part, was already working. Not in anger, in analysis. She made a choice. He made a power play. And I just watched my wife agree to it while her husband stood 15 yards away. My phone buzzed. Text from Nicole. Where did you go? I didn't answer. I started the car and drove home. Our house was in Riverside, one of those neighborhoods where every lawn looks perfect and every marriage looks happy. I pulled into the garage at 11:47 p.m. The house was dark except for the porch light Nicole always left on. I didn't go inside right away. Instead, I sat there in the dim light, listening to the engine tick as it cooled, and made a decision. Not an emotional one, a strategic one, the kind I'd make for a client facing a hostile takeover. If she came home tonight and acted like nothing happened, I'd know exactly where I stood, and I'd know exactly what I needed to do. The plan I'd been quietly building for the past 11 months, the one I'd told myself was just insurance, just precaution. It was time to execute it. Every document I'd had her sign, every asset I'd restructured, every contingency I prepared. She wanted dinner with Vincent Crawford? She could have it. But when she came home tomorrow night, she'd find out what it cost her. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't even try. Instead, I sat in my home office with the door locked, reviewing every document I prepared over the past 11 months. The quitclaim deed she'd signed last April, transferring the house into a trust one controlled. The pension reallocation form from June, moving our joint retirement into separate accounts. The business entity formations, the asset transfers, the carefully worded legal releases. Each one had seemed so innocent when I presented them. Estate planning, I told her. Tax optimization. Protecting our assets. She'd signed them all while checking her phone, barely reading past the first paragraph. Why would she? She trusted me. Her husband, the patent attorney who handled all the complicated paperwork. That trust was about to cost her everything. At 2:47 a.m., I pulled up the spreadsheet I'd been maintaining. Every asset we owned, categorized and tracked. The house, sole ownership transferred to me. The investment accounts, separated and restructured. Her pension contributions, legally redirected into a charitable trust that I controlled access to. Our joint checking. I've been slowly moving funds for months into accounts she didn't know existed. It was all legal. Every single move. I made sure of that. I heard the garage door open at 1:15 a.m. Nicole's heels clicked on the tile floor. She called my name twice. I didn't answer. Just listened to her walk upstairs, heard the bedroom door close. Waited. At 6 a.m., I showered, dressed in my running clothes, and packed a small duffel bag. Clothes for 3 days, laptop, external hard drive with encrypted copies of everything I needed. I left the house keys on the kitchen counter, along with the garage door remote. Added the spare car key she'd need. The envelope I'd prepared weeks ago sat beside them. No letter inside, just documents. The one showing what I'd done, what she'd signed, what she no longer had access to. I took one last look around the house we'd lived in for 12 years. The kitchen where we'd hosted dinner parties. The living room where our daughter Emma had learned to walk. The life we'd built that Nicole had casually traded for a dinner invitation and a promotion. My phone was already off, SIM card removed and destroyed. I had a new one in my pocket, burner, prepaid, untraceable. I'd spent months setting up the infrastructure I'd need. Email accounts Nicole couldn't access. Cloud storage she didn't know existed. A virtual private network that masked my location. Emma was the only complication. Our daughter, 22 years old, graduated from college last spring, working in Portland now. I'd called her yesterday afternoon before the award ceremony. Told her I loved her. Asked her about her new job. Didn't tell her what was coming because I couldn't risk Nicole getting to her first, spinning the story her way. I'd handle that later. Right now, I needed to disappear. I left through the front door at 6:33 a.m. The sun was just starting to rise, painting the sky orange and pink. Beautiful morning for an ending. I walked 3 blocks to where I'd parked my second car, the one registered to the LLC Nicole didn't know I'd formed. A gray Toyota, 5 years old, completely unremarkable. By 7 a.m., I was on Interstate 5 heading north. No destination in mind yet. Just distance. Just movement. Just the first step in a plan I've been building for almost a year. My phone, the new one, buzzed once. A calendar reminder I'd set for myself. Day 1. That's exactly what this was. Day 1, a new life. One where I wasn't invisible. One where I wasn't taken for granted. One where Cole Branson would cease to exist, and someone else would emerge. Someone she'd never find. Someone who'd make her realize exactly what she'd lost. I merged into the fast lane and pressed down on the accelerator. In my rearview mirror, the city where I'd spent 20 years slowly disappeared. I didn't look back. 3 days later, I sat in a motel room outside Portland, watching my old life unravel on a laptop screen. I'd set up monitoring software months ago, access to our home security system, our bank accounts, Nicole's email, all perfectly legal since they were joint accounts and I'd installed the cameras myself. Now I watch her panic in real time. She called everyone. My office, my parents, Emma, even my old college roommate. I knew this because I'd set up forwarding rules on our shared contacts. Every call she made, I heard about. Every email she sent, I read. She'd reported me missing to the police on day 2. They told her what I knew they would. I was an adult. I'd left voluntarily. There was no crime. My phone, the new one, rang. I recognized the number. Samuel Gaines, my attorney and old law school buddy. We've been planning this for months. Cole, Samuel said, his voice steady. She's hiring a lawyer. Expected, I replied, taking a sip of coffee. Who? Patricia Vance. Family law, aggressive, expensive. I smiled despite myself. Good. Let her spend the money. How long until Patricia realizes there's nothing to fight for? I'd get a week, Samuel said. Maybe less. The documents are airtight. Everything you did was legal. She signed everything willingly. And the trust. Locked down. She can't touch the pension funds. Can't access the investment accounts. The house is in your name, through the quitclaim. She's technically living in your property. What about Emma? Samuel hesitated. Your daughter's been calling my office. She wants to know what's happening. I told her I can't discuss it without your permission. I closed my eyes. Emma, the only pure thing in this mess. I'll call her. Just not yet. Nicole will use her if she can. Cole, I have to ask. How far are you taking this? All the way, Sam. She made her choice. She chose a dinner with her boss over 20 years of marriage. She chose ambition over loyalty. I'm just making sure she understands what that choice cost. After hanging up, I opened my encrypted files. I had documentation of everything. Screenshots of Nicole's text messages with Vincent Crawford going back 8 months. Nothing explicitly inappropriate, but the tone, the frequency, the late-night conversations, they told a story. I had credit card statements showing lunches and dinners I was never told about. I had a trail of small lies that added up to something bigger. I wasn't planning to use them in court. I didn't need to. But if Nicole tried to paint me as the villain, I had the receipts to set the record straight. My laptop pinged. Email from an address I didn't recognize. I opened it cautiously. It was from Emma. Dad, I know you can see this. Mom's falling apart. She said you took everything. She said you abandoned us. I don't know what to believe. I just need to know you're okay. Please, just tell me you're okay. I stared at the screen for 10 minutes. My daughter deserved better than this. But if I reached out now, Nicole would track it, use it, manipulate it. I had to wait. Just a little longer. I typed a response from a secure email. Emma, I'm safe. I'm sorry you're caught in this. Your mother made a choice that broke our family. When the time is right, I'll explain everything. I love you. Stay strong. Don't let her turn you against me before you hear my side. Trust that your father wouldn't do this without a reason. I hit send before I could second guess it. Then I packed my bag. Portland wasn't safe anymore. Too close. Too easy to trace. I needed more distance. By sunset, I was crossing into Washington state, heading for a small town I'd researched months ago. Population 3,000. No cameras. Cash friendly. The kind of place where a man could disappear and nobody asked questions. Nicole wanted to play games? I've been 3 moves ahead since the beginning. And she was only just starting to realize she'd already lost. 2 weeks after I left, Nicole found the first document. I know because I'd set up alerts on the shared cloud storage, the one she thought I'd forgotten about. She'd uploaded a scanned copy of our mortgage papers, probably trying to figure out if she could refinance without me. That's when she would have seen it. The quitclaim deed. Her signature, right there on page 3. Dated 11 months ago. Transferring sole ownership of the house to me. I told her it was for estate planning, for tax purposes. She'd sign it while watching some reality show, wine glass in hand, barely looking up. Now she was looking. Now she was understanding. My new phone rang. Samuel again. She knows, he said. Patricia Vance called me an hour ago. They want to challenge the deed. On what grounds? Fraud. Duress. They're claiming you misrepresented the document's purpose. I laughed, cold and sharp. She signed it with a notary present. The notary will testify she appeared of sound mind and willing. There's no fraud. That's what I told Patricia. She's grasping. Nicole's desperate. Good. Let her be desperate. What else? She tried to access the joint investment account. Found out it's been restructured into a trust. She's locked out. As intended. Cole, she's going to fight this. It's going to get ugly. Sam, it's already ugly. She just didn't notice until now. After the call, I sat on the porch of the cabin I'd rented. Small place, middle of nowhere, Washington mountains surrounding me like walls. I'd paid cash for 3 months up front. The owner, an older man named Dutch, didn't ask questions. Just took the money and handed me a key. I'd been here a week, and already I felt more at peace than I had in years. No pretending. No walking on eggshells. No wondering if my wife actually saw me or just saw a paycheck and a stable life she could take for granted. My laptop showed another email from Emma. This one was different. Angrier. Dad, Mom showed me the papers. She said you tricked her. She said you stole everything. How could you do this? How could you just leave? I thought you were better than this. My chest tightened. Nicole was already poisoning her. Already spinning the narrative. I'd expected it, but still hurt. I wrote back. Emma, your mother signed legal documents. Multiple times. I didn't force her. I didn't lie. I told her exactly what they were for, estate planning, asset protection. She just didn't care enough to read them. Ask her about Vincent Crawford. Ask her about the dinner. Ask her why I left. Then decide who's the villain here. I hesitated before sending it. Was I dragging Emma into this? Yes. But Nicole had fired the first shot. If she wanted to use our daughter as a weapon, I'd make sure Emma had all the facts. 3 days later, I got a response. Just one line. I asked her about Vincent. She wouldn't answer. Dad, what's really going on? Progress. Small but progress. I wrote back with the truth. Not all of it. Just enough. The award ceremony. The invitation. Nicole's acceptance while I stood right there. My decision to walk away from someone who'd already walked away from me years ago. I didn't steal anything, Emma. I protected myself from someone who stopped valuing me a long time ago. I'm sorry you're in the middle of this, but I won't apologize for refusing to be invisible anymore. The next day, Dutch knocked on my cabin door. He stood there, weathered face, flannel shirt, holding an envelope. "This came for you," he said. Woman dropped it off. Didn't give a name. I took the envelope. Expensive paper. Nicole's handwriting on the front. Cole. I opened it after Dutch left. Inside, a single page. "You win. I'll sign whatever you want. Just please, let's end this. Let me keep something. The house, at least. For Emma." I read it twice. Then I walked to the fireplace, struck a match, and watched it burn. She didn't get it yet. This wasn't about winning. This was about consequences. She'd made me invisible for years. Now, she got to see what true invisibility looked like. 6 weeks after I walked out, Vincent Crawford's company imploded. I didn't cause it. Not directly. But I've been watching the situation develop for months. That's what patent attorneys do. We track innovations, partnerships, and most importantly, intellectual property disputes. Vincent's company, Crawford Technologies, had been in litigation with a Chinese firm over stolen trade secrets. The case was public record if you knew where to look. I've been following it since last year, back when I still cared about Nicole's career trajectory. The judgment came down on a Tuesday. $60 million in damages. Crawford Tech didn't have $60 million in liquid assets. The company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection within 72 hours. I learned about it from a news alert on my phone. Sat there in Dutch's cabin, coffee going cold in my hand, reading the article twice. Vincent Crawford was quoted saying it was a temporary setback. The stock price said otherwise, down 83% in a single day. Samuel called an hour later. "You seeing this?" he asked. "Hard to miss," I replied. "Nicole's going to be in trouble. If Crawford Tech goes under, she's out of job. No severance and bankruptcy. Not my problem anymore, Sam." "Cole," Emma called me again. "She's worried about her mother. Says Nicole's barely functioning." I closed my eyes, pinched the bridge of my nose. What does she want me to do? Maybe reach out. Maybe just let Nicole know you're not trying to destroy her completely. I'm not trying to destroy her at all. I'm just not saving her anymore. There's a difference. After hanging up, I pulled up my monitoring software. Nicole's email showed 3 messages to Vincent Crawford, all marked urgent, none answered. She'd also sent her resume to 4 competitors, all companies that would know about the Crawford Tech scandal. Her prospects weren't good. Then I saw it. An email from Patricia Vance, her attorney, to Nicole. "Given your financial situation and the bankruptcy, I have to recommend we settle. Fighting this will cost more than you'll ever recover. He has everything documented. Every signature, every date, every legal justification. I'm sorry, but you don't have a case." Nicole's response came an hour later. "Then what am I supposed to do? Just accept that I have nothing." Patricia's reply was blunt. "You have what you sign away. That's the reality." I should have felt vindicated. Victorious, even. Instead, I felt hollow. 20 years of marriage, reduced to legal documents and financial restructuring. A woman I'd loved, now scrambling to survive while her boss ignored her calls and her lawyer told her to surrender. But then I remember that night. Vincent looking at me. Nicole saying yes. The casual cruelty of being erased in front of a room full of people. The hollow feeling passed. My phone rang. Emma, calling direct for the first time since I left. I answered. "Hey, sweetheart." "Dad." Her voice was tight, controlled. "We need to talk." "I know. Mom's falling apart. She lost her job. She can't pay the bills. The house is going into foreclosure. The house is in my name, Emma. It's not going anywhere. She's living there with no power to keep it. Dad, this is too much. You've made your point." I stood up, walked to the window. Mountains stretched out forever, indifferent to human drama. Have I? Because from where I'm sitting, your mother still doesn't understand what she did wrong. She thinks I'm punishing her for a dinner invitation. She doesn't see the years of being invisible, the years of being taken for granted. So, teach her. Don't destroy her. I'm not destroying her, Emma. I'm just not protecting her from the consequences of her own choices anymore. There's a difference. Silence on the line. "Then, when are you coming back?" "I'm not. Not to that life. not to being the man nobody sees. Then what happens to Mom? She figures it out. Like I had to figure out how to live with being invisible for years. She's smart. She's capable. She'll survive. That's cold, Dad. No, sweetheart. Cold is saying yes to another man while your husband watches. I'm just done being warm to someone who treated me like furniture. Emma didn't respond for a long moment. Then, I love you. But I don't like you very much right now. That's fair, I said quietly. I can live with that. The call ended. I sat back down, stared at my phone for 10 minutes. Emma's words echoed. Was I taking this too far? Maybe. But I'd spent 20 years not taking it far enough. Not standing up. Not demanding to be seen. I opened my laptop, pulled up the mortgage account. The house payment was 60 days overdue. Foreclosure proceedings would start at 90. I transferred exactly enough to bring it current. Not a dollar more. Then I sent an email to Nicole through an anonymous account. The house is paid. You won't lose it. But you won't keep ignoring what you did either. When you're ready to acknowledge the truth, without excuses, without blame, we can talk. Until then, learn to stand on your own the way I had to. I hit send and closed the laptop. Dutch knocked on my door 20 minutes later, holding a bottle of whiskey. You look like you need this, he said. I took it. That obvious. Son, I've been divorced 3 times. I recognized that look. Woman trouble. Something like that. He sat on my porch, uninvited but not unwelcome. You're running or hiding? Both. Neither. I don't know anymore. Dutch nodded, took the bottle back, took a pull. Advice from an old man. Whatever you're doing, make sure it's about moving forward, not just away. Running away's easy. Running towards something takes guts. I took the bottle when he offered it back. What if I don't know what I'm running toward yet? Then you figure it out. But you figure out by living, not by hiding in my cabin forever. 3 months after leaving, I heard my name on the radio. Not the actual radio, a podcast. One of those red pill, men's rights channels that have been growing in popularity. The Masculine Reset, with hosts Jake and Connor. I'd never listened to it before, but the algorithm had suggested it after I'd been researching asset protection strategies online. The episode title caught my attention, The Executive Ghost, When Silence Becomes Power. I downloaded it, sat in my truck outside a grocery store in Washington, listening to 2 men I'd never met dissect my life. So this story's been circulating online, Jake said. Corporate event. Executive asks a guy's wife out to dinner. Right in front of him. Wife says yes. Husband doesn't argue. Just walks away. Disappears completely. And when I say disappears, Connor added, I mean legally restructured his entire life before leaving. This guy was 3 steps ahead the whole time. They had details. Not names, but details. The quitclaim deed. The trust structures. The pension reallocation. Someone had leaked it. Probably someone from Patricia Vance's office, or maybe Nicole herself, looking for sympathy online. Here's what gets me. Jay continued. This dude didn't get violent. Didn't slash tires. Didn't blow up on social media. He just used the system perfectly. Every document. Every signature. Completely legal. That's the power move, Connor said. She thought he was weak because he didn't fight. But he wasn't weak. He was patient. He was planning. The comments section had exploded. Thousands of men sharing similar stories. My ex-wife did something similar. I wish I'd been smart enough to prepare like this guy. This is what happens when you stop being the nice guy. But there were critics too. This is financial abuse. He's a sociopath. Real men communicate. They don't disappear. I sat there, engine running, listening to strangers debate whether I was a hero or a villain. The weird thing was, I didn't feel like either. I just felt tired. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Is this you? The podcast story. People are calling you a legend. Others are calling you a monster. I just want to know if my husband is famous now. Nicole. She found a way to reach me. Probably paid someone to trace the anonymous email I'd sent about the mortgage. I stared at the message for 5 minutes. Then I typed, I'm not famous. I'm just done being invisible. There's a difference. Her response came immediately. Can we meet? Just once. Just to talk. I almost said no. Almost blocked the number and drove away. But something in me, maybe curiosity, maybe the last remnant of 20 years together, made me hesitate. One meeting, I typed. Neutral location. You come alone. We talk. Nothing more. When? I'll let you know. I didn't set a time because I wasn't ready. Maybe I'd never be ready. But at least now the possibility existed. Not reconciliation. Not forgiveness. Just conversation. Just two people who used to know each other, trying to understand how it all fell apart. The podcast kept playing. Jake was reading comments now. Here's one. This man did what millions of us wish we had the courage to do. And another. He's not a hero. He's just someone who finally respected himself enough to leave. That second one landed. Respected himself. That's what this was really about. Not revenge. Not punishment. Just refusing to accept being treated as optional anymore. I turned off the podcast, put the truck in gear, and drove back toward the cabin. Dutch's words echoed in my head. Running toward something, not just away. Maybe it was time to figure out what that something was. 4 months after disappearing, I got an email that changed everything. It came through one of my secure accounts, from a literary agent in New York named Rebecca Stone. Subject line, your story. Mr. Branson, she wrote, I've been following the podcast discussions about your situation. I believe there's a book here. Not a revenge memoir, but an honest account of what happens when someone finally stops accepting being invisible. I'd like to discuss representation. Interested? I stared at the screen for 20 minutes. A book. My story, told my way, not filtered through podcast hosts or internet comments. A chance to explain what actually happened, not what people assumed happened. I called Samuel first. Is this a good idea? I asked. Legally, it's fine as long as you don't defame Nicole or disclose privileged information. Personally, that's your call, Cole. But once you publish, there's no going back. You stop being a ghost and become a public figure. Maybe that's the point. Maybe hiding isn't moving forward. Then talk to the agent. But be smart about it. I set up a call with Rebecca for the next day. She was direct, professional, no nonsense. I'm not interested in a hit piece, she said. I'm interested in the truth. Men are struggling with feeling invisible in their relationships. You're not unique in that. But the way you handled it, the preparation, the legal precision, that's what makes this compelling. What if Nicole fights it? She can't stop you from telling your story. As long as it's truthful and you're not violating any agreements, you have every right to publish. And if it makes things worse for her? Rebecca paused. Mr. Branson, she made you a character in her story when she said yes to Vincent Crawford in front of witnesses. You're just reclaiming authorship. The deal came together fast. 6-figure advance. Publication in 8 months. Title, The Exit Strategy, When Silence Becomes Power. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt exposed. Writing meant revealing everything. The planning, the hurt, the calculated dismantling of a life I'd spent 20 years building. It meant Emma would read it. My parents would read it. Nicole would read it. But Dutch's words kept echoing. Running toward something. Maybe this was it. Not hiding. Not running. Just standing in the truth and letting people judge it however they wanted. I called Emma before signing the contract. I need to tell you something, I said. I'm writing a book. Silence. Then about Mom. About our marriage. About what happened. I wanted you to hear from me first. Dad, haven't you done enough? The podcast, the blog that Rick wrote, now a book. What does it stop? When people stop assuming I'm either a hero or a monster. When they understand I'm just someone who got tired of being invisible. And you think a book will do that? I think it's the only way I'll ever really explain. Emma, I'm not trying to hurt your mother. I'm trying to make sure my side exists somewhere besides internet comments. She was quiet for a long time. Will you let me read it before it's published? Every word. Then okay. But Dad, when this comes out, you can't hide anymore. You'll have to face everything you've been running from. I know, I said. I'm ready. After hanging up, I opened my laptop and started writing. Not the book yet, just notes. Memories of the marriage before it broke. The good years, before Nicole's ambition consumed everything. Before I became furniture. Dutch knocked on my door that evening, saw me surrounded by papers and coffee cups. You working or obsessing? He asked. Writing a book. He raised an eyebrow. About how I got here. That's moving forward, he said approvingly. Just make sure you're not just explaining the past. Make sure you're building something new. What does that look like? Dutch shrugged. Hell if I know. But I'd start by asking yourself what you want, not just what you're running from. After he left, I sat on the porch, watching the sun set over the mountains. What did I want? Not Nicole back. That version of us was dead. Not revenge either. I'd already dismantled everything that needed dismantling. I wanted to be seen. Really seen. Not as a paycheck or a stable presence or furniture. As a person with value, with worth, with something to say. The book would do that. But more than that, I needed to figure out who Cole Branson was now. Not the husband. Not the lawyer. Not the man who disappeared. Someone new. Someone whole. I pulled out my phone and texted Rebecca Stone. I'm in. Let's write this thing. Her response came immediately. Good. The world needs to hear this. Let's show them what happens when silence stops being weakness and becomes strategy. The meeting happened 5 months after I left. Nicole found me through the book deal. My name appeared in the publishing announcement buried in industry news. She drove to Washington, showed up at Dutch's property unannounced. I was chopping wood when her car pulled up. She got out slowly, like she was approaching something dangerous. Maybe she was. Cole, she said. I set down the axe, wiped sweat from my forehead. Nicole, you look different. Stronger. I am different. Can we talk? I nodded toward the porch. We sat on opposite ends, the space between us heavy with months of silence. I read about the book, she said. Publishing trade journals. Someone forwarded me the announcement. I figured you would. Are you going to destroy me in it? I'm going to tell the truth. If that destroys you, maybe that says something about the truth. Her jaw tightened. I came here to ask you to stop. Please. I've lost everything. My job, my savings, my reputation. Vincent won't even take my calls. The internet calls me a cautionary tale. Isn't that enough? This isn't about enough, Nicole. This is about making sure people understand what happened from someone who was actually there. I was there too. Were you? Because from where I stood, you weren't present in our marriage for years. You were physically there, but emotionally, you checked out a long time before that award ceremony. She looked away, composure slipping. I made a mistake. One mistake. I said yes to a dinner that meant nothing. That dinner was just the visible part. What about the hundreds of nights you chose work over me? The anniversaries you forgot? The conversations where you looked through me like I was glass? Nicole, you didn't make a mistake that night. You revealed a pattern that had been there all along. So you're punishing me forever? I'm not punishing you. I'm just not protecting you from consequences anymore. There's a difference. She stood up, anger finally breaking through. You know what? Maybe I did take you for granted. Maybe I did prioritize my career. But you could have said something. You could have fought for us instead of just planning your escape like I was some hostile takeover you needed to defend against. I tried talking to Cole. 3 separate times over 2 years. I asked if we could go to counseling. You said you were too busy. I suggested we take a vacation. Just us. You said you couldn't take time off work. I asked if we could have dinner together one night a week. You said your schedule was too unpredictable. So yes, eventually I stopped asking and started planning. Because asking wasn't getting me anything except more proof that I didn't matter. She sat back down, the fight going out of her. I didn't realize it was that bad. That's the problem. You didn't realize because you weren't paying attention. We sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, she spoke again, voice smaller. What do you want from me, Cole? An apology? Acknowledgement? What will make this stop? Nothing will make it stop, Nicole. The book is happening. The truth is coming out. But I'll tell you what I wanted 5 months ago. I wanted my wife to see me, to value me, to choose me over her boss when he disrespected both of us in public. That's all I ever wanted. To matter. You mattered. Not enough. Not more than the promotion. Not more than Vincent's approval. And that's what I'm writing about. Not revenge. Not punishment. Just the simple truth that I spent 20 years being invisible to someone who promised to see me forever. Nicole stood up, tears finally coming. I'm sorry. I know it's too late, but I'm sorry. I believe you. But sorry doesn't change what happened. It just acknowledges it. She walked to her car, stopped with her hand on the door. The book. Will it at least be fair? It'll be honest. That's all I can promise. She drove away. I watched until her car disappeared down the dirt road, then went back to chopping wood. Each swing of the axe felt like cutting away another piece of the past, building something new from the wreckage. Dutch appeared an hour later. Saw her leave, he said. You okay? Yeah, I think I am. Get what you needed. I gotta say what I should have said years ago. That's something. Dutch nodded. That's everything, son. That's everything. 8 months after I left, Emma made her decision. She called me on a Tuesday afternoon, her voice steady in a way that told me she'd been preparing for this conversation. Dad, I need to tell you something, she said. I'm listening. I'm changing my last name to Branson. Just Branson. dropping Mom's maiden name from the hyphenated version. I sat down slowly. Emma had been Emma Branson Porter since birth, honoring both families. This wasn't a small gesture. Emma, you don't have to do that. Yes, I do. Not because I hate Mom, but because you were the parent who showed up. Every soccer game, every school play, every time I needed someone. You were there. She was at work. I'm 22 years old, and I'm finally seeing clearly what you saw years ago. Your mother loves you. I know she does. But loving someone and being present for them aren't the same thing. You taught me that. Not with words. With actions. After he hung up, I sat on Dutch's porch, watching the evenings settle over the mountains. My daughter had chosen me. Not because I'd asked her to. Not because I'd manipulated her. But because she'd watched everything unfold and made her own judgment. The book released 2 weeks later. The exit strategy hit the bestseller list within days. The reviews were mixed, predictably. Some called it a necessary exploration of emotional neglect. Others called it a manifesto for abandonment. But people were reading it. People were talking about it. Nicole sent me an email after reading it. Just 3 lines. I read it. Every word. You were right about more than I wanted to admit. I'm sorry it took losing everything to see it. I didn't respond immediately. Took me 3 days to find the words. Thank you for reading it. Thank you for acknowledging it. I hope you find what you're looking for. It just won't be with me. Emma called a week later with news. Mom got a job, she said. Marketing coordinator for a nonprofit in Portland. It's a pay cut, like a 70% pay cut. But it's something. She seems different. Quieter. More. I don't know, present. That's good. I'm glad she's rebuilding. She asked me to ask you something. She wants to know if you'd be willing to meet with her one more time. Not to reconcile. Just to have closure. Real closure. Not angry closure. I thought about it. Tell her yes. But in 3 months. After the book tour is done. After things settle. The advance money from the book had changed things. I'd paid off every debt. Set up a trust for Emma's future. Donated a chunk to men's mental health organizations. The rest I invested carefully, building something sustainable. Dutch had been right. Moving forward meant building, not just running. I'd started teaching too. A business law class at a small college in Washington. Helping younger people understand contracts, intellectual property, asset protection. Not as revenge tactics, but as life skills. One of my students, a kid named Ryan, asked me after class one day, Professor Branson, is it true you're the guy from that book? The one who disappeared. Used to be, I said. Now I'm just a guy who teaches law and tries to help people protect themselves. That's pretty cool, Ryan said. My parents got divorced last year. My dad got destroyed financially. Wish he'd known what you knew. Tell him it's never too late to start over, I said. Tell him being visible to himself matters more than being visible to someone who stopped seeing him. That conversation stuck with me. Maybe that was the point of all of this. Not revenge. Not vindication. Just showing people that leaving with dignity was possible. That protecting yourself wasn't weakness. It was survival. The meeting happened on a bench in Portland's waterfront park. 2 years and 3 months after I'd walked out of that award ceremony. Nicole was already there when I arrived, hands wrapped around a coffee cup, looking smaller somehow. Not physically, just less certain. Cole, she said as I sat down. Nicole. We sat in silence for a moment, watching the Willamette River flow past. Joggers passed by. Tourists took photos, the world spinning like nothing had ever happened. Thank you for coming, she said finally. You said you wanted closure. I figured we both could use it. I've been in therapy, she said. Real therapy, not just venting to friends. My therapist helped me understand something. I was using work to avoid dealing with us. Every promotion, every late night, every time I chose the office over home, I was running from intimacy. Why? Because intimacy requires vulnerability. And I've never been good at being vulnerable. Being a boss, being in control, that felt safer than being a wife who might get hurt. I nodded slowly. I wish you'd figured that out before. Me too. But I didn't. And I'm sorry. Not sorry I got caught. Sorry for what I did. Sorry for treating you like furniture. Sorry for not seeing you when you were standing right there. Those words, the ones I'd needed 2 years ago, they landed differently now. Not healing, exactly. Just acknowledgement. Thank you, I said. That means something. Emma talks about you all the time. The classes you teach. The book. She's proud of you. She should be. She talks about you too. Says you're different now. Nicole smiled sadly. Broke and humbled has a way of changing people. I'm making $48,000 a year at a nonprofit. I drive a used Honda. I rent a studio apartment. But I'm actually happy. Happier than I was making six figures and climbing the ladder. What changed? I stopped measuring my worth by my title. Started measuring it by whether I could look at myself in the mirror without flinching. We sat for another few minutes. Then Nicole pulled out an envelope, handed it to me. What's this? I asked. Final divorce papers. I signed them. No lawyers, no fight, no drama. Just an acknowledgement that we're done and have been for a long time. I opened the envelope. She'd signed everything. Kept nothing except the right to move forward. You didn't have to do this. Yes, I did. You deserve to be completely free. And I deserve to stop fighting battles I've already lost. I signed the papers there on the bench. When I finished, Nicole stood up. I hope you find someone who sees you, Cole. Someone who doesn't take you for granted. You deserve that. I hope you find peace, I said. Real peace, not just absence of chaos. She walked away. I watched her go, then sat there for a while longer, papers in my lap, feeling something shift inside me. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, just release. My phone buzzed. Text from Emma. How'd it go? It went well. I typed back. It's finally over. Good. Love you, Dad. Love you too, sweetheart. I stood up, walked along the waterfront, papers tucked under my arm. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. In the distance, Mount Hood stood sharp against the horizon, permanent and indifferent. 2 years ago, I'd walked out of a ballroom and driven into the unknown. I'd dismantled a life, disappeared into mountains, rebuilt myself piece by piece. Not because I was cruel, not because I was cold, but because I'd finally learned that being seen started with refusing to be invisible. The book had hit number 3 on the Times bestseller list. I've been interviewed on podcasts, morning shows, even a TED Talk about boundaries and self-respect. People call me an inspiration. Others call me a cautionary tale. I was neither. I was just a man who decided that his presence mattered, that his voice mattered, that being taken for granted wasn't the same as being loved. Dutch had passed away 4 months ago. Heart attack, quick and painless. At his funeral, his daughter had pulled me aside. Dad always said you reminded him of himself when he was younger, she told me. Said you had the sense to leave before the resentment turned you bitter. He respected that. I'd kept the cabin, used it as a writing retreat now. The second book was almost done, not about my marriage, but about rebuilding after loss. About the space between ending and beginning. As I walked back to my car, I passed a young couple arguing on a bench. The woman was on her phone, barely listening as the man tried to talk to her. I almost stopped, almost said something, but it wasn't my place. Everyone had to figure out their own exit strategy, their own breaking point, their own moment of deciding that being invisible wasn't acceptable anymore. I got in my car and drove north, toward Washington, toward the life I'd built from silence and strategy, toward teaching and writing and showing up fully present for the people who mattered. 2 years ago, I'd left everything. Now I had something better. Not a perfect life, just an honest one, where I was seen, where I mattered, where my presence wasn't optional. And that was worth more than any marriage that required me to disappear.